The station called Helios Drift floated between three trade routes, far from any single star. It was built for peace, not comfort. Long metal halls, white lights that never dimmed, and air recycled so many times it lost all smell. For most beings, that was a blessing. For Valith, it was a quiet punishment. She lived alone in a sealed section of the station. The walls were thicker there. The doors opened only with permission. The air vents were filtered differently, stripping away most of what made her her. It was not a prison by law, but it felt like one. This was the condition placed on her presence: isolation. Valith belonged to the Sareth, a species known across the galaxy for one thing alone: scent. To the Sareth, scent was not attraction or danger. It was identity, memory, emotion, truth. Each Sareth carried their history in the air around them. Families were known by it. Friends recognized one another by it. Even grief had a scent. Other species did not understand this. Long ago, during early contact, several races reported strange reactions when exposed to unfiltered Sareth presence. Confusion, emotional overwhelm, fear. Rumors spread quickly. Stories grew darker with every retelling. Soon, the galaxy decided the Sareth were unsafe. Not through cruelty, but through fear. So the Sareth withdrew. Now, generations later, Valith was one of the few allowed beyond their borders, serving as a cultural observer. She accepted the role with calm dignity, but the loneliness pressed on her every cycle. She spent her days reading reports, watching passing ships through a narrow viewport, and listening to the soft hum of the station. Sometimes she closed her eyes and tried to remember the scent of her homeworld: warm stone, flowering dust, the shared air of thousands moving together. The memory faded a little more each time. Most beings on Helios Drift never saw her. They knew she was there, sealed away, marked in red on station maps. Conversations would lower when her sector was mentioned. Some crews requested rerouted paths just to avoid passing near her area. Valith heard all of this through official channels. She never responded. Silence had become her defense. The humans arrived quietly. At first, they were just another new species joining the Alliance, recent, curious, and considered physically weak by most standards. They lacked natural armor, claws, or enhanced senses. Their technology was good, but not extraordinary. Other races saw them as useful partners, nothing more. Valith read the initial reports with mild interest. Humans breathed oxygen like many species. Their biology was flexible, almost fragile. What caught her attention was their psychology. Humans formed emotional bonds quickly. They attached meaning to objects, places, and even sensations that others ignored. She wondered what that might mean. The answer came sooner than expected. A maintenance alert sounded one cycle, a low chime through her quarters. Section ventilation irregularity, non-critical, but it required manual inspection. Valith assumed it would be handled remotely as always. Instead, she heard footsteps, real footsteps, close. She stiffened, every sense alert. No one entered her corridor without notice. She moved to the intercom panel and activated it. "This section is restricted," she said calmly. "Please state your authorization." There was a pause, then a voice, male, unfamiliar, calm. Yeah. "Sorry about that. I'm Eli Carter, human engineering crew. They sent me to check a pressure imbalance." Valith frowned slightly. "A human, here. Your assignment has been misdirected," she replied. "You should leave immediately." Another pause. She expected fear or tension. Instead, she heard confusion. "That's strange," the human said slowly. "I mean, I can step back if you want, but something's off." Valith's fingers tightened on the panel. "Define off." The human inhaled, then exhaled. "The air here," he said, "it's different." Her breath caught. That should not be possible. The filters were designed to block nearly everything. Only the faintest trace of her natural presence could escape, barely measurable. "You are advised to retreat," she said more firmly. "Prolonged exposure is not permitted." "I'm not feeling bad," he replied. Actually, I feel kind of calm. Calm. No one had ever described her presence that way. Valith hesitated. Human Eli Carter, are you experiencing dizziness, confusion, emotional instability? He gave a short laugh. No, ma'am. If anything, I feel grounded. It's weird. I don't have words for it. Against every rule, Valith stepped closer to the sealed door. Her heart beat faster, not with fear, but something unfamiliar, hope, sharp and dangerous. You should leave, she said again, but softer now. I will, he said, but before I go, this might sound strange. She waited. It smells like home. The words hung in the air. Valith closed her eyes. Home. That word carried more weight than any scientific report or council decree. Home was what she had lost. Home was what she carried alone. You should go now, she said quietly. Footsteps retreated. The pressure in the corridor shifted. The human left. Valith stood there long after, trembling. Within minutes, the station systems flagged the interaction. Security logs, sensor data. Medical scans from the human's wearable devices. The results made no sense. No elevated stress. No neurological disturbance. No signs of influence or harm. Instead, the data showed lowered heart rate, stable emotions, comfort responses. The station authorities panicked. Emergency meetings were called, messages sent to the Alliance Council. Humans were pulled aside for questioning. Eli Carter found himself sitting in a white room, answering the same questions again and again. What did you feel? Did you feel compelled to approach? The council members exchanged uneasy looks. None of that aligned with what they believed. Valith, meanwhile, was confined more tightly than before. Additional filters were installed. Her communication privileges were restricted. No one spoke to her directly. She expected punishment. Instead, days passed in silence. Then a message appeared on her console. Request for controlled interaction approved. Human representative present. Her hands shook as she read it. The galaxy had feared her scent for centuries. Now, for the first time, someone wanted to understand it. Far away, aboard a human vessel docked at Helios Drift, Eli Carter stared at the stars through a viewport. He had not expected his routine assignment to change anything. He had only told the truth. And somehow that truth had shaken the station. He thought of the corridor again. The calm. The strange feeling of belonging in a place that wasn't his own. He didn't know why it mattered, only that it did. And somewhere behind sealed walls, an alien woman waited, no longer completely alone but not yet free, while the galaxy stood at the edge of a truth it had never wanted to face. The truth that fear was not always a warning. Sometimes it was just misunderstanding. And sometimes what was called dangerous was simply different. The approval did not come with comfort. When Valith read the message again, her chest felt tight. Controlled interaction. Human representative present. Those words carried hope, but also danger. Hope because someone wished to understand. Danger because understanding could still turn into rejection. She prepared herself carefully. The additional filters were reduced but not removed. The air in her chamber was allowed to carry a little more of her natural presence, though still far less than what she would have shared among her own people. To Valith, it felt like speaking in a whisper after a lifetime of silence. Across the station, Eli Carter was escorted through security corridors he had never seen before. The guards were polite but tense. Their eyes followed him closely as if waiting for something to go wrong. He didn't feel afraid. If anything, he felt curious. The room where they met was simple. Transparent barriers stood between them, thick and clear. The atmosphere was carefully balanced for both species. Sensors lined the walls, watching every breath, every heartbeat. Valith stood on one side of the barrier. She kept her posture calm, hands folded loosely, her expression neutral. Inside, she was anything but calm. Eli entered on the other side and stopped when he saw her. This was the first time a human had truly looked at her. She was taller than him, her form slender and smooth, her eyes dark and reflective like polished stone. Subtle markings traced her skin, shifting faintly with her emotions. To Eli she looked quiet, not threatening, not strange, just different. "Hello," he said, unsure of protocol. "Hello, Eli Carter," Valeth replied. Her voice was soft, steady. "Thank you for agreeing to this." He nodded. "I wanted to." That honesty startled her more than fear ever could. They stood there for a moment, separated by glass and years of misunderstanding. "How do you feel?" a station observer asked through a speaker. Eli took a slow breath. "The same as before, calm." The sensors confirmed it. Valeth closed her eyes briefly. A quiet wave of emotion passed through her markings, relief. "You are not harmed?" she asked him directly. "No," he said. "I don't feel influenced, I just feel comfortable." Comfort. The word echoed again. The observers exchanged glances. They asked questions, many questions. Eli answered each one patiently. Valeth listened, careful not to let her presence change too much. Finally, the observers allowed them to speak freely. Valeth tilted her head slightly. "You said my scent reminded you of home. May I ask what that means to humans?" Eli thought for a moment. "Home isn't just a place for us, it's a feeling, safety, familiar things. Sometimes smells trigger memories we didn't know we were holding on to." "What memories did you feel?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Not one thing, a mix. My grandmother's old house, rain on dirt roads, early mornings when everything is quiet." Valeth listened carefully. Among her people, scent carried exact meanings. With humans, it seemed softer, layered. "To my kind," she said, "scent is identity. We share who we are without words. We believed others feared it because it revealed too much." Eli frowned slightly. "I don't think humans fear that." The silence that followed was heavy. Over the next cycles, the controlled interactions continued. Other humans were tested carefully, slowly. Engineers, medics, diplomats. The results stayed the same. No harm, no loss of control, only calm, familiarity, emotional grounding. The station authorities grew uneasy. If the Sarath were not dangerous to humans, then the old rules were built on false fear. Centuries of isolation. Entire histories shaped by misunderstanding. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Valeth was asked to speak. She stood before a projection of countless beings, many of whom had never wanted to see her at all. "I was taught to accept your fear," she said quietly. "I was told it was safer for everyone if we stayed apart. But fear without understanding becomes cruelty, even when unintended." She did not accuse, she did not plead, she simply told the truth. Eli stood among the human delegation. When his turn came, he spoke plainly. "We don't see danger here," he said. "We see a way to connect. Humans don't assume the unknown is a threat. We test it, learn from it." Some council members argued, others hesitated. Data was presented, medical charts, emotional readings. Facts were hard to deny. In the end, a compromise was reached. The Sarath would no longer be classified as a restricted species. Humans would serve as voluntary intermediaries in shared spaces. Further study would continue, not from fear, but from cooperation. It was not freedom, but it was a beginning. When the session ended, Valeth returned to her quarters exhausted. Eli requested permission to walk her back through the shared corridor. The barriers between them were removed, replaced with distance and trust. As they walked, the air shifted gently. Eli slowed his steps. "There it is again," he said softly. Valeth watched him carefully. "Does it trouble you?" "No," he replied. "It helps." She stopped. "You are not afraid?" she asked. He met her gaze. "No, I think your people remind us that we were never meant to be alone." Something inside Valeth loosened. For the first time since leaving her world, she allowed a little more of herself into the air, not enough to overwhelm, just enough to be real. Eli inhaled slowly, a small smile forming. "It still smells like home," he said. Valeth looked out through the viewport at the distant stars. They were cold, far apart, endless, but not unreachable. In the days that followed, human ships carried new agreements. New understanding. The galaxy did not change overnight, but something fundamental shifted. Fear lost its certainty. Valith was granted permission to leave her sealed quarters, to walk the station, to be seen. She did so carefully, aware of watching eyes, but she walked anyway, and everywhere humans passed her they did not recoil. They nodded, smiled, breathed. For the first time the galaxy did not feel quite so empty. Far beyond Helios drift, word spread. Humans had met what others feared and called it familiar, and the galaxy would never see either species the same way again.